Okay. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for taking the time to attend this pre-construction meeting tonight for 1950 Scott Street, which is located at the southwest corner of Scott and Clifton Road. My name is Alice Fife, and I assist Councillor Leeper with the planning and development files for Kitchissippi. We also have the project team, which includes folks from Colonnade Bridgeport and Morley Hoffner on the call as well. I'm sure everyone in attendance here tonight is familiar with the development plan for the site, but in case not, I just want to quickly remind everyone of what has already been approved in terms of the zoning and the site plan. And what it will ultimately entail is a 22-story mixed-use building with 224 dwelling units with ground floor commercial space and underground parking. In terms of tonight and the format of this meeting, the project team will offer a presentation on the development. Well, they will review some details of the approved plan, and then they'll get into construction-related items like anticipated start date, the timeline information for each section, such as excavation, pouring, etc., truck access routes, construction staging, and any anticipated impacts to sidewalks or roadways. Then after the presentation from the project team, we'll go into an open forum Q&A where residents can ask further questions. Before we get started with the presentation, I just want to note two housekeeping items. Number one, I'd like to note that this presentation is being recorded and it will be posted on the Kitchissippi Ward YouTube channel by the end of the week. So for those who couldn't make it tonight or those who would like to review the details again afterwards, they will be able to watch the recording there. And anyone interested can write our office for the link, or they can search Kitchissippi Ward on YouTube and find it there directly. And then number two, once the presentation is complete and we move into the Q&A, I would ask folks to please use the raise hand function on Zoom to indicate that you'd like to ask a question. Just to note as well, anyone who'd prefer not to ask a question verbally can ask it through the Q&A function through the chat. And if you aren't comfortable with being recorded on video, please feel free to turn off your camera on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. And with that, I am going to hand things over to Kelly from Colonnade Bridgeport to start the presentation. Thank you. Hi, Kelly.
Thank you, Alice. Hello, everybody. Alice, I'm just going to share. Do I have the ability to share my screen?
You should. If you have an issue, let me know.
I don't have any options to share. Sorry, Alice.
That's okay. I thought, let me see. I thought if you being a co-host, you could, but let me just go into.
Apologies all for the technical difficulties.
I'm just looking for advanced. Why can't I do this?
I think if you go to the bottom, you should have a bar pop up with a share button.
Yeah, I do. Okay, is that working? No. One sec. Yeah, I'm using that, and it's weird. I'm just getting.
So, Alice, we see your screen, your green screen, or I'm seeing your green screen.
Okay, I don't. Oh, let me see. Okay.
I think I have sharing ability, so I can share if that's easier.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why what I'm not doing. Just bear with me for one sec. So I'm click. Yeah, when I go, one sec. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh, the share button is up now.
Okay.
Alice,
sorry about that.
That's okay.
There we go.
So is my screen showing, Alice, now?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. Okay, thank you, everybody. My name is Kelly Rodenheiser. I'm the Senior Vice President of Development here at Colonnade Bridgeport. And you guys all know the property we're speaking about at 1950 Scott. And we're excited that we have branded the building Rise. So got too many screens open. I apologize. So I just wanted to share who the partners are. So I have my development team here on the call. I also have Morley Hopner, who's our construction manager, on the call as well too, and they'll be walking through the construction items and site logistics. And I just wanted to highlight the great partners we have on the design team. So from my team, I have Katie Ambler, who is the senior construction manager. She'll be your main point of contact through Colonnade Bridgeport, as well as Alex Gordon, who is our senior development manager. And from Morley Hopner, we have Ken Hopner, our partner in the real estate development, with Nick and Mark, both president and senior project manager. And Mark will be your main point of contact on the construction side. We just wanted to give you a visual context of the look and feel that we're going for the interior of the building. And I'm 99% sure everybody knows where we are, but we just wanted to point you out exactly where we are. So we are in the white box rise at the corner of Clifton and Scott Street, adjacent to 1950 Scott. As Alice already mentioned, we're building a 22-story tower with 242 residential units, 1,200 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor that will front onto Scott Street. We connecting to the cycling paths and the bike dedicated parking. We are about 150 meters from the Westboro LRT station, and we're providing 2 floors of underground parking. Now, I just wanted to talk through our proposed schedule, and we are preparing to mobilize. You've probably seen some people on site as we're starting to work through the abatement and demolition of the existing site. And then we plan to start excavation towards the end of this month. Which will take us all the way through till October, and then we'll be starting the substructure for the parking garage in October, and then moving on into February of 2026 is when you'll see the superstructure coming out of the ground. That will go on until October of 2026, where we'll start finalizing the roof and interior finishes. And our first tenant is hoping to move in the fall of 2027. Now, I believe Nick or Mark, we're going to talk through the construction management in detail, I believe. I can't see everybody, so my apologies.
Yeah, no problem. I'm here, Kelly.
Oh, great. Thanks, Nick.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Previously introduced, my name's Nick Saskovich, and I'm the VP and District Manager for Morley Hopner. Basically, what that means is I'm ultimately responsible for all of Morley Hopner operations, including construction of the Rise. I also happen to be a resident of the neighborhood, so sort of looking forward to making sure our team is good neighbors throughout the construction process. So up on the screen here, we have a similar overhead view of the project site, and just for reference, like running horizontally at the top of the screen is Scott Street and the rail line. Sidewalks along Clifton and Scott will have overhead protection and remain open throughout construction, so that's good. Those sidewalks can be seen by the red shaded shape around the property, so kind of that L shape. Those are the sidewalks. We'll be installing some overhead protection. I think some residents probably have seen similar types of setups on other projects along Scott Street. We will be utilizing a tower crane for the construction, and the swing of that crane is depicted by the red circle you can see on the screen, so gives an idea of where the crane will be able to swing. Most of our lifts will happen within the white shaded area, which is actually the construction site, and we would be lifting like off of Clifton, or I think people have seen that those houses to the south of the site have been demolished, and we'll be sort of utilizing some of that space as well. So gives an idea of where a tower crane will be. Primary access to the site will be through Clifton Road side of the property, and we're not expecting any changes to bus lane operations, or bike lanes will remain open and usable under the overhead protection for the construction. We're not anticipating any loading or unloading operations from Scott Street. So most of that will be off of Clifton, and hopefully we can get off Clifton and onto the south properties as much as possible. And then we are just finalizing a temporary exit path for the 1960 Scott Street residents right now. So you can't quite see it on this picture, but there's a small strip of land and an exit path between the white shaded area and the 1960s building. And so that exit path is just being sort of finalized how we're going to maintain that during construction. But yeah, those are kind of the high points that we wanted to touch on in terms of site logistics for the project. And I can just say that the whole Morley Hopner team is really excited to be sort of participating and committed to doing a good job and keeping things clean and safe for the residents through construction. Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, great. And then, Alice, we at this point wanted to open it up to questions. We've also created a Rise Progress Hub, so you can take use your camera and the QR code, and that will connect to our website where you'll be able to see what is going on the project and ask any questions you have of our project team.
Sorry, did you say we were good for questions now?
I will leave, Alice, I'm not sure how you're planning to handle questions. Yes, I'm okay to move to questions, but I'll let Alice.
Sure, let's move to questions. And like I said, if people can use the raise hand function, that'd be great. Because we have about 30 people on the call. So just to help things move along. So I've got a question in the chat and I've got 2 raised hands. I'll just quickly go to the question in the chat first, and then we'll get to the folks with raised hands. First question in the chat, what are the hours we can expect from noise from construction?
I can take that one, Kelly. I'm assuming I can jump in whenever.
Yes, go ahead. Nick, you and I can tag team here.
Great. It's a good question. So we'll be following all the regular city requirements. So work on, weekends and holidays. We'll follow those requirements. But our typical site day is open from 7 to 3:30. So I'd expect those are kind of the hours that will be sort of working on the site Monday to Friday.
So right now there's no weekend work anticipated at this point.
Yeah, I think just to be fair to the residents, there will likely be some weekends where things are happening, but we'll be following all the requirements and I don't expect that to be a regular occurrence.
All right. Okay. Next, Kathy, you had your hand raised first, I think. So go ahead, please.
Hi, folks. Yeah, I just had a question. Thanks for all the presentation. And I see that you've got overhead protection on the sidewalks. And I'm just wondering, since Clifton Road is also the entrance site for the vehicles going in and out, how is that going to be handled with people? Because it's pretty much a very populated pedestrian walkway up and down Clifton with dog walkers, people going over to McRae, and people going to transit and all that kind of stuff. And since we only have a sidewalk on that side of the road, there's, it's pretty dangerous to be walking down the east side of the road. So when you have that, the scaffolding above to protect people, how will that work with vehicles going in and out of the site? Thanks.
Great question, Kathy. Our process is when we do need access to be bringing vehicles into the site through that Clifton sidewalk, we'll have what we would call spotters, which is basically workers on our crew there sort of directing traffic and making sure that pedestrians are kept safe. So there'll be people there at all times sort of directing people either around or if it's a quick exit of a vehicle in and out, that sort of thing, they'll stop them for that 10 seconds that we need to cross there. So I'd expect to see a lot of foot traffic of our workforce there, just making sure that it remains a safe environment if we are crossing that Clifton sidewalk. So that's typically our process, is to have a set of people there sort of directing traffic. And then if we have like a longer operation, like a concrete pour, we're not expecting to be closing off the sidewalk. We think we can use the south properties to be able to stage trucks and that sort of thing. So expecting it to be minimal, but there will be times when there'll be more traffic crossing Clifton, and that's when we'll have individuals there directing traffic and making sure pedestrians are kept safe.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go to a question in the chat. Will there be any closures to the parking garage entrance / exit at 1960 Scott Street?
No, not that
Yeah.
we're not planned at all.
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't believe so.
And just to be clear, just for other people that, we're talking about 1950, that's the proposed development, and then 1960 is the building immediately to the west.
Correct.
Okay. Next, we'll go back to the screen. Joe Gertz. Joe, you've got your hand raised. You want to go ahead?
So thank you very much for the presentation. I'm president of what's called the West Village Association, which just lives to the east of Clifton Road. And I had some questions from residents, and then we have a couple of concerns. The first question I'd have is about blasting for the underground parking. Do you have any idea as to how long that will take and how that will be handled in terms of warning residents, if you wish, in terms of I'm going to call it potential disruptions, or at least the noise, the vibrations and stuff, so people are aware?
Joe, I can take that question. I just didn't know if you want to ask all your questions, and then I could go, but I can go one at a time if you don't mind.
I go on with the other issues. The second concern we have is just basically parking for the workers. When you guys did 1950 Scott, and then of course the Livermore was done, Scott Street becomes, to put it politely, a bit of a zoo. So perhaps this is a question more for Jeff's office as to how we're going to handle the issue of workers. The primary concern for us at West Village is that we are a private, so we own our own roads and all those kinds of things. And we do have some visitor parking here. And what I don't want to see is that the workers all of a sudden decide to adopt car parking, if you wish, to be used for their purposes during the day, or have anybody decide to sort of lay by on our street, as an example, a concrete truck or somebody who's doing a delivery. I just want to give you the heads up. We are a private, so we're not city roads. And I just want to raise that to your attention, I guess. More, it's not so much as a question, but just wanted to raise it to your attention. But two questions are blasting and how are you handling the issue of parking for the workers?
Great questions, Joe. Thanks. So on the blasting side, it's hard to know exactly how long the blasting is going to take, but we use a specialized contractor to do that. And so what they'll do is they'll provide they'll create a bit of a radius around the building, and they'll provide lots of information to residents as it comes. So you'll get I think it's at least 24 hours notice, probably by like hand delivered paper. And then the blasting will occur sort of as needed. As the blasting happens, there'll be sort of loud air horn warnings, and it'll happen during the day to make sure that everybody stays as a safe distance away. And so that'll sort of happen as it goes. And then we also implement some vibration monitoring around the site, just to make sure that we're not doing anything detrimental to either other buildings or houses around the area. So we'll be installing that sort of vibration monitoring as well. And those our team will be able to sort of answer questions on any of that as we go. But all that blasting work would sort of happen between I would say August and October of this year, from the schedule that Kelly walked through. And then
it'll be done by Christmas then, Neil, in effect. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And then on the parking side, our group actually owns the land at the Granite Curling Club site down the street at on Scott Street. And so we're probably our big primary plan is to try and utilize that site for construction parking. So I think that really helps. I mean, I live on Tweedsmuir between Scott and Richmond, so I know the parking that happens along Scott Street there. So I totally understand the concern with parking, and so I think that'll be a nice slick setup for us to be able to house our workers there. We can't 100% guarantee that when we get really busy at site, workers won't try and park in areas. All we can do is say that we'll try and work with the community if it becomes a concern. Like our team will be available, contact information available to sort of address those issues as we go. Like it's kind of impossible for us to 100% police it, but we will providing some parking options for our trades as we go.
Yeah, perhaps if we could get a phone number, or perhaps if somebody could supply me with a phone number that we can call just in case, because we do have a firm that does parking enforcement in our area. So if somebody chose to park and we couldn't get them to move, we will tow them. So perhaps it might be useful if perhaps through Jeff's office, if somebody can send me a phone number, I'll make sure that our committee here is aware of it, and this way we don't end up in any I'll call it disputes where we tow one of your workers away or something of that nature. But
So
we
Joe,
are quite concerned about that. So
understandable. So Joe, what we'll do is the PowerPoint presentation the counselor's office has, so they can share that with the QR code, as well as we'll provide the counselor's office with one main point of contact between Morley Hopner and Colony Bridgeport, so that if there's anything, then you can contact us directly.
okay, all right. Well, that's all the questions or concerns I had. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Great. Thank you. Amy, did you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I live at 313 Clifton, which is immediately across the street from the site, basically within the red circle of the crane. My question is about traffic on Clifton. Clifton is, despite being a small street, relatively busy for traffic. It is definitely used as a cut through to Island Park. There's parking on the east side of the street. I'm assuming the trucks will stage on the west. I'm wondering if the parking status will change for our street during this time, and if the street will be closed to anything other than local traffic, because knowing what the current traffic situation is, which is actually quite busy a lot of days, especially at rush hour, I'm curious how that will work with all the trucks, and a truck parked on one side, parking on the other really makes it one lane.
I can speak briefly to that, and then Kelly, if you've got anything to add there, or Mark, really, like, feel free to cut in. We're not expecting any big closures of Clifton. There's going to be a few operations, like when we actually erect our tower crane. That's when we, that's a pretty serious operation with a few cranes, and so I could see some, and that usually happens like on a weekend, and we try and do it as sort of to disrupt as little as possible. But there will be some of those.
And in that situation, we'll communicate directly with the neighbors that will be affected and give lots of notice and work through a plan that works for everybody. Yeah.
But those would be, and so my point was those would be sort of handful of days throughout the construction phase, not really a regular occurrence. We're not expecting to have to change the parking setup on Clifton, and we're expecting to be able to use the south lots, like I guess across the street from you, where the houses are already torn down, to stage things like trucks and that sort of thing during concrete pours to try and keep them off Clifton. So we've cut a bit of a deal with the owners of that land to be able to use that instead of staging on the street. But there may be situations where that's, but we're going to try to avoid it as much as we can.
Suggest again, because I live so close, this is Joe Gertz. If the city in some way could put up some signage to aid people to stop the cutting across at during the day, and particularly at rush hour, that would be helpful. Some kind of local traffic sign, something that creates an obstacle so people stop using that. It'd be very helpful to the people on Clifton, and would probably ease your situation, because right now, there is an awful lot of traffic that goes down Clifton, which is just, and they're searching an easy way to get around to Island Park Drive. So I think the city should do something on your behalf, to be honest, to help with that.
Even like just a local traffic only kind of signage could be helpful.
Something like that, because there are some signs up and people ignore them. But I mean, I think there needs to be something far more obvious. And you see that in certain situations, like further down the street where they're doing that other tower. So I would suggest the city should be helping with it, but something to cut the traffic off, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joe and Amy. I'm going to read a couple of questions from the chat. The first question, it's not construction related in my mind, but I'll read it anyway. What is the impact on the east facing view of 1960 Scott from this building?
So Councillor, so Alice, I'm not quite sure the question. I guess how it's going to look once it's done. It will be a building, but it will be construction. You'll see construction as you come up over the first floor until construction is completed, and then it will be the finished building, which is the approved location.
I know about coming in and inspecting the house and the property.
Understood. Okay, I'm going to read another question from the chat. What does it mean, quote, site excavation, unquote, and how does it differ from, quote, below grade substructure parking, unquote? What are the typical activities that take place in each of these phases?
Sure. So,
Yeah.
go ahead, Nick.
Oh, sure, Kelly. Yeah, good question. So site excavation is basically like, I think one of the slides showed that we had 2 levels of parking underneath the building, and those are below the current level of the street. And so we need to dig that down. So site excavation is basically the effort to dig that down. And then we're expecting to encounter some rock. And so that's where the blasting question came from Joe. So that activity in the schedule includes excavating with a typical sort of excavator rig and trucks to get material out of the hole, and then the blasting activity to get us to the required level below grade. And then the below grade substructure is basically us building back up the parkade with a concrete foundation from the bottom up. So that basically gets us down 2 levels below grade and then back up to grade, so that you'll see a concrete structure basically at the same level as Clifton Street.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back to the screen. Gord, you have your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations on finally moving on this. I've been here for 38 years and I've been waiting for it for a long time. On the point of traffic, anything short of armed guards is not going to work. The signage has been there forever and it's ignored. More importantly, as Amy mentioned, we're right in the face of the blast zone. I assume there'll be pre-construction house inspections for potential foundation damage, that type of thing.
Correct.
And
Yes.
I think that's about it. I just looking forward to watching this go up. It's been a long time.
Thank you, Gord.
Thanks, Gord.
Okay, I'm going to read a question from the chat. What phases in the anticipated construction schedule are 1, the loudest, and 2, the dustiest?
I would say the loudest is probably the blasting. The blasting is when, we have loud air horns and there'll be some action there, but it happens, it's not for a very long amount of time. So blasting is probably the loudest. Concrete pours are busy and that sort of thing. Dustiness, I would say the early side of construction, as we're sort of moving material in and out during the excavation phase and the early times of pouring concrete, that's when we're sort of moving in and out. But once we get out of the ground by the end of this year, the site tends to clean up quite a bit, and we're not sort of shifting dirt on and off the street. And typically we're really committed to sort of keeping the streets clean. And so if we are doing lots of operations, we'll be cleaning the streets regularly. So that's what I would say, in my opinion, would be the loudest and dustiest.
Thank you. Next, Evie, you've got your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead?
Hi, Alice. I'm sorry. It's Tim Gray.
Oh, hi, Tim.
I didn't
Hi.
change my wife's name in there.
That's okay. Go ahead.
So we're hearing a lot of traffic questions, and I'm wondering why we're not seeing a construction traffic management plan tonight from the city, or from that's supposed to be part of the thing that's set up. So it's all laid out. We all know, what to expect. And so I'm just, and it's always an issue, particularly along Scott Street. So is that in the works, or what's happening there?
Yeah, so we're required to prepare a traffic management plan. It is currently in the works.
So when do we see that?
I will
And
need to
s-
confer
Yeah,
with my
sorry.
team, but it will be before the end of June.
Yeah.
So Alice, can they start construction without the traffic management thing in place?
I can answer that. No, we can't. So it will
Okay.
be provided to you before we start. It is in the works to make sure that it's appropriately set up, and we just didn't have it ready to share tonight.
So you're going to send that to Alice, and Alice is going to send that to me, and I can send it to whoever's interested, or because it's like these projects, it's traffic is always an issue, and you're already hearing it. So
Absolutely. And we're happy to host another meeting if that is appropriate as well too.
okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, Zachary, please, you go ahead. You've got your hand raised.
Yeah, hi, thank you. A couple of quick questions. Regarding parking and the exitway for 1960 Scott Street. I know you mentioned that you don't expect it to be impacted, but you've also said that there might be some temporary adjustments. So just wondering what those temporary adjustments will look like. And then second, regarding parking and the entranceway into the building itself when it's finally ready to go, is the entranceway going to be facing Clifton, or is it going to be facing Scott, or there'll be multiple entrances? Because as everyone has kind of alluded to, Scott Street is a bit of a mess with so many parked cars and just one lane each way, and traffic is already pretty bad, especially during rush hour. And I can imagine that adding an extra entranceway and exitway is going to make it even more difficult. Thanks.
Absolutely. So the access will be off of Clifton, and there is no vehicle access on Scott Street for this property. So to answer that question, the other is there will be what Nick was referring to is there's overhead protection that's being provided between 1950 and 1960 Scott for pedestrian egress, but there's no impact to the parking garage itself.
Is there a potential plan to put in another like crosswalk or light then if there's going to be exit cars coming out onto Clifton who will most likely then want to go to Scott or Richmond?
No.
I think you guys said too, you're going to have flag people there, aren't you, on Clifton?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So it's Zachary, I think there's sort of two answers. There's the end state after construction's complete, and then during construction, our plan is to basically provide people there, spotters, as we're sort of moving traffic around the site, and so there'll be lots of people sort of directing traffic and keeping things safe. And then I think Kelly's mentioning that about sort of the end result of how that's going to work at Clifton.
And the end result is that there will still be only a entranceway off of Clifton, not off of Scott.
Correct. Yes. Sorry, I thought you were asking about the after.
I am asking about the after, so I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna go to a couple of questions in the chat. Apologies if I missed this, but how far away will the new building be from the closest side of 1960 Scott? What's the general distance between the two buildings?
I don't know that off the top of my head, Alice, but we can, one of my team will take a quick look at a site plan and see if we can pull off a dimension for you while we're continuing on the meeting.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, Gord, you've got your hand up again. Do you want to go ahead? Or did you already ask your question? I just forgot to lower your hand. Maybe that was it. Joe, you have another question.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, Joe, I'll get back to you in a minute. Gord, go ahead then.
Okay, thanks. Just a question post-construction. Having lived through the redevelopment of McCrae and our house and our neighbors' houses being absolutely covered with dust and residual construction stuff. Who do we put our claim into at the end of construction to get it cleaned?
Gord, you can reach out to myself and we'll discuss. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay, Joe, do you want to go ahead? Ask another question?
Yeah, it's just a curiosity question is that does the city have any plans to, I'm going to call it upgrade Clifton, whether it be sidewalks or the road post this construction in the sense of any changes to the street itself? Once this building's up, obviously that area changes. So I'm just curious, is part of the city's plans, will there be an upgrade to Clifton itself in terms of access for people, sidewalks, et cetera?
I can actually jump in, Kelly, if you want.
Sure.
Not that I have the answer, but Joe, as you've probably noticed, I live in the ward, and we're seeing bit by bit each street is getting road rebuilt in the ward. I'm not aware of Clifton slated for anything in the next couple of years, but what I can do, if you can send me an email to alice.fife@ottawa.ca, I think you have my address anyway. I can ask my colleague Ben in the office, who has good knowledge of all those types of files, and I can check in with him and see if there's any timeline. But and even if there isn't a timeline in the next few years, I anticipate it's probably a matter of time, but I can't say for sure.
So the amount of traffic on Clifton from all the heavy trucks delivering the steel, all the concrete and everything else, that street's going to break down just from that traffic, because right now it's basically only residential weights, and now Nick's going to be bringing in all this other superstructure and everything else. So just an observation. I would think that you're going to have to do something with the street, but that's the only reason I was asking it. But I will send you an email. Okay.
Thank you.
Alice, I have an answer to the setback question, if that's helpful.
Sure, go ahead.
So the tower itself is set back 10.5 meters from the property line between 1950 and 1960 Scott. I don't know what the setback of the tower of 1950 Scott, 60 Scott is. I suspect it's about the same separation on the tower, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't speak to that. And then the podium is 3.5 meters. The podium is the ground floor to the fourth floor, and that's as per the approved zoning and site plan.
Thank you.
And then to this, sorry, Alice.
No, go ahead.
Also on the sidewalk, part of our site plan application is we are building the sidewalk along Clifton on our property side, as well as doing some upgrades along Clifton across our street frontage.
All right. Okay, I'm not seeing any more raised hands, so I'm going to go back to the chat. Mark, I have seen your question commenting on blocked views and rent and compensation questions. Just for the sake of keeping this meeting focused on construction, I would ask you if you would want to email me. I'm happy to put you in contact with the folks at Colony Bridgeport to talk about that further. But like I said, for now, I want to keep this focused on the construction. That's okay. And similarly, Danny, I see your note about, will the new building block to the east facing view, will the new building block the east facing view on 315 McRae's Terrace? I think the answer to that is similar to the earlier one. Okay, next, will trucks be driving to the site from Clifton Road South as opposed to coming in from Scott Street to Clifton Road? Ideally, we would prefer the least amount of traffic on Clifton Road. And how much of the empty space is being utilized? All of it, all the way to Wilbur, or will some of the land be left open for dog walkers, etc.?
I could take that one. So I think we're expecting sort of truck traffic to go both ways on Clifton for sure. But our traffic management plan that we'll be providing will sort of detail that out a little bit. So I would agree we want to limit the amount of residential traffic, and so But if we're not using Clifton, then we're driving down some of the other sort of roads around the neighborhood as well. So we're going to take the path of least resistance and try and limit traffic in the sort of housing streets as we can. That'll be defined in the traffic management plan. And then how much of the empty space is being utilized, I'd have to pull that up to see the exact portion of I don't know if we go all the way to Wilbur. I'm not sure if Mark,
We do
you
not,
know.
Nick.
Yeah, I don't think we do, right?
Yeah, so the development property is the old Buddha's temple, and then I believe it's the two residential houses that are south of that. And
Okay.
then there's a south vacant lot that had houses that were demolished previously. That's where we'll be staging, and that's as far as we go during construction.
But that property, Kelly, goes all the way to Wilbur.
Oh, thank you, Ken.
Yeah, we rented the entire lot. I think that was the question.
Misunderstood.
Yeah. So it's our best interest to use as much of that land to keep things off the street. So
Correct.
yeah.
Okay. Another question from the chat. How accurate, in your opinion, is the construction schedule, and do you expect any delays?
I'll let Nick answer that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Kelly.
So the
Yeah.
construction schedule is, we believe, is accurate. There may be some minor delays here and there, but we aren't expecting any significant delays at this time.
Yeah, I think I can just add to that and say this is a really important project for us, and so we've done a lot of pre-planning. I think a couple people have mentioned it. This project's a long time in the making, and so we've looked at it in a lot of different ways, and we're feeling really confident with our plan to execute construction. So, but things do happen in construction. So I would say this is one where we're feeling like we've really looked at it in a lot of detail before proceeding and going to the site. So we're feeling good about it, but things can happen.
Okay, another question from the chat. Curious to know if you could distribute unit floor plans. When might these be available?
Great question. So we will absolutely share those with the public when we're ready. We're not quite there yet, but that would be posted on our hub site that we've created. So we can advise, and if you have any questions, you can just contact us directly.
Okay, Carlos, hi Carlos. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Perfect, thanks. Hopefully it's not too windy with the earpods, whatever it's called. It may have already been addressed. I inadvertently closed the call, but the staging area, the intent is for the construction team to use as much of that staging area as possible, all the way to Wilbur Avenue. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Sounds good. In terms of notification, Nick, I appreciate the sort of the info on the sidewalks and the roads, the closures and so on. And I know that there's been a commitment to making folks available if we've got questions or concerns. I just want to make sure that those are not just business hour contact names and numbers, because obviously we've got PTSD from living through every other piece of construction in this area. And when the alarm goes off and someone tried to break into the tower crane at 3 o'clock in the morning, I want there to make sure that there's a contact point that's available 24/7 to us to address that. So just in terms of that communications, I want to make sure that's a commitment from the team.
Yeah, so I can talk about that. I think on top of having like a full-time contact from our side, we're providing and paying for like a full-time security service for the site as to sort of manage that as well for us. So there'll be multiple points of contact there.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because in previous ones, like for 319 McRae and so on that we had to do, and 320, we're calling maybe once a month, something like that, kind of very after hours, just for like late night shenanigans and so on.
Yeah.
And I guess the last thing is, I know that there's a commitment to, depending on the swing or the impact of either the crane or the blasting or whatever else, I would ask that you maybe make a commitment to inform all the residents of Clifton all the way down, even if we're just immediately outside of that, 50-meter blast zone or whatever else. If there's any communications going out to the Clifton neighbors, I would say just inform everybody on the street wherever possible, just so people because again, it'll impact everyone kind of getting in and out of the area and so on.
Okay.
That's probably more of an Alice request.
Okay.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Okay, another question in the chat. Is floor 22 mechanical only. Oops, where did it go?
So the 22nd floor is partially mechanical as well as amenity space. There is no residents living on that floor.
Okay. And where will the common exterior area be, on the east or south side of the tower, on which floor?
So there's common area at grade, which is in the southwest corner of the site. And then there's only a patio on the 22nd floor, and it is on the north side of the site, facing out to the river.
Thank you. Okay, another question in the chat. I think I missed the answer to an earlier question. What are the hours of operation of construction and what days during the week? Nick, if you could speak to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, no problem. Our sites are open from 7 to 3:30 Monday to Friday. That's our typical. But I do expect that we'll be working some weekends and some extended hours. But anything that falls outside of the city requirements, there's procedures for notification and requesting that. So, but that's our typical construction site operation is 7 to 3:30 Monday to Friday.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Another question. Will the north facing side of 1950 Scott Street line up perfectly with 1960 Scott Street, or is the new building set back from the road?
So it does have a setback. I don't know, Rebecca, exactly the setback, but we're checking and I can share that with you. But it'll be similar setback to what 1960 is from the road.
Thank you. Next, is fencing being put around the staging area?
Yes.
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 Yep.
Right. And I don't see any more raised hands. Mark, I see you have a comment, but you're clearly not happy about this another tower going up. But like I said, I'm trying to focus this meeting on the construction that's coming up. And as I mentioned, the project is already approved. It has zoning in place and site plan approval. I'm gonna just give another minute or so, a few seconds. If anyone wants to ask another question, raise a hand, type something in the chat. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Okay. Oh, I see.
Alice, I'm going to put the QR code in the chat as well too. If you want to use your camera phones, you can take a screen grab of that if that works. If not, Alice will have the PDF and can share.
Yeah, anyone, you can just email the office and I can share it with you. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions. So with that, I want to say thanks very much to everyone. Thank you, Colonnade Bridgeport and Morley Hoffner. And of course, thank you to all the residents who took the time on a nice June night to attend tonight. And like I said, if anyone has any questions or would like the QR code or anything like that, please feel free to email our office. You can either email the main inbox, jeff.leapier@ottawa.ca, or please feel free to email me directly. I'm alice.fife, that's F-Y-F-E, @ottawa.ca. And lastly, just another quick reminder that we will have this recording up on the YouTube, the Kitchissippi Board YouTube site, hopefully by the end of the week. And if you have any trouble finding it, please just send us an email and I'd be happy to share the link that way. And with that, I'm going to say good night, everyone. And thank you very much again for attending. Have a good evening. Thanks.
Alice,
Bye-bye.
there was a last question that came up about the views, and if maybe if they wanted to reach out directly to you, I can help out with showing the locations of the buildings and giving them some guidance if I'm assuming they're a resident of 1960 Scott, so I can try to help out giving some guidance.
Great, I appreciate that. Thanks. And I did suggest that to Mark as well with regards to his other question, that I'll connect folks with the appropriate contacts.
And I'll follow up with Mark as well too. So once he reaches out directly to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.